During a show. I didn't get to watch it. I have my transcript and my notes, but you're going to be leading me here along, or leading me through this. Mark, let me start with you. Just give me your general take on it. What did you think?
Well, Kim, I worked in television news for almost 20 years, and I have to tell you the most important thing I think to say about it from a technical point of view was it was brilliant. I saw you on The Daily Show the other day, and I noticed you used profanity. I don't know that we have a bleep on this show, so I'll just say it was effing well done. It was brilliantly produced. They used live element at the end. They had incredible choices of real people, like you want to do in television news, to tell a story. Barack Obama appeared quite a bit in incredibly dignified and emotional ways, some biography. Again, not endorsing Barack Obama, not saying I agreed with his message, but from a technical point of view, it was a brilliant half an hour of television, and a far 17 steps above Ross Perot and his flip charts, the last candidate to buy primetime infomercials.
And Mark, I know that you meant a freaking well done job, right?
I don't think so.
Okay, Stephen Hayes.
Thank goodness for the 7-second delay. That's all I have to say.
Steve Hayes, you're obviously not an Obama supporter, so give me your take. Did you think this rose to the level technically that Mark did?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're a voter and all you saw of this entire campaign or all you knew of Barack Obama was this 30 minutes of, an extended commercial, he looks great. I mean, the thing that struck me, I think, well, two things basically. It was sort of Barack Obama's plea to and on behalf of the middle class. He's essentially saying to the middle class, look, you support me next week and I'm going to get your back for the next 4 years, the next 8 years.
And that's really been his closing argument, reaching out and connecting with middle-class voters.
Yeah, I don't know how many times he actually said middle class, but several times. He, in the beginning of his live remarks, at the end of this, the taped version of this, he said, starting with the middle class. He began the presentation starting with the middle class. So that was, I think, the one takeaway. The second thing I would say is that at times, Barack Obama sounded like a conservative. I mean, he had Kathleen Sebelius on there, the governor of Kansas, talking about his values and Midwestern common sense roots. You had him talking the language of a conservative at several points throughout the presentation. I think that's probably something that will work well in battleground states.
Campbell.
Roland, well, let me ask you, Roland, though, because there are going to be people who say this is overkill. You spend millions of dollars, you take over all but one of the major broadcast networks. Could there possibly be a backlash?
Well, first of all, you could have a backlash, but the reality is candidates spend all kinds of money on robocalls, billboards, placards, you name it. And so you decide how you want to spend the money. But let me say this. I got to come back what Stephen said. Stephen, talking about family values is not sounding like a conservative. That's sounding like an American. And I think what you saw here, Obama was trying to make the point that, yes, I'm also a family man. I'm a married man. I'm a father of 2 daughters. Campbell, also, if you saw the stories that they also told, you have families from Ohio, New Mexico, Colorado, Missouri, and then you had one from Kentucky. 5 different families for those battleground states. That also jumped out at me as well. Last point, he nailed 3 issues consistently: jobs, health care, and education. And so he was clearly talking to families in this particular infomercial. And as Mark said, technically, it was an absolutely brilliant job in terms of a production standpoint.
Mark, let me go to you on this. Roland touched on this. He did spend a lot of time on his bio talking about his family. How much of that is still a bit of a hurdle for him to overcome, to get people comfortable with who he is, where he comes from, this reassurance that somehow is needed for certain voters?
Campbell, it's incredible. All the money he's spent, all the time he's been in the national spotlight. I know you have the same experience. All of us do. In New York, traveling around the country, I spoke to a group of very sophisticated New Yorkers the other day. Afterwards, many of them came up to me, continued to ask me questions about Barack Obama's biography, bathed in absolute ignorance about him, and in many cases, having a more derogatory view of his background than actually exists. He still has educating to do, and this was an expensive and very well executed way to try to continue that education process, even though we're just 5 days away from Election Day.
The other striking thing, Steve Hayes, no mention here of John McCain or George Bush for that matter.
It was striking. I noted the same thing. I mean, he spent a lot of his time on the stump talking about John McCain and the things that John McCain is saying, the things that John McCain wants to do. But tonight he clearly turned the attention back on himself, sort of refocused the American public on himself, on the things that he was going to do. Look, I think in 2004 he gave this famous speech at the Democratic National Convention and he presented himself as a new politician. Now, I'm dubious of that, and I think he's campaigned in a way over the past 20 months that suggests he's not actually a new politician. But the Barack Obama that we saw tonight was the Barack Obama who presented himself to the American public on that night in 2004 as a new kind of politician, as a problem solver, as a pragmatist, and as someone who puts, who is bipartisan, able to work across aisles.
Roland, you get the last word.
Look, bottom line is when you have 5 days left, you do everything that you can to appeal to the voters. And this is what he was trying to do with this. And so, again, by stressing, look, you saw tons of American flags as well in this whole piece. He was making the point, my name might be Barack Obama, but I'm just as American as you are, whether it's Ohio, Pennsylvania, Florida, Illinois, or California.
All right, guys, appreciate it to Roland, Steve, and Mark Halpern. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your time tonight.